Okay, so you can pick up where you left off. You might want to just say what the title is.
I'm just reading a paragraph from Mead's introduction to Communal Families in the Balkans in Zadruga, edited by Robert Burns. And I think I told you something about Burns's background.
Not exactly. If you could.
Well, he was a career person with the CIA, and then he in the Soviet field, I'm sure, and then he transferred over to teaching at Indiana University.
Right.
And he's the one who organized this conference.
Okay.
And it's called Communal Families in the Balkans, the Zadruga.
Thank you.
Now, what does this have to do with Stalin's role in 1930s Russia and American policy in World War II? But anyhow, Mosley was trained as a historian with a special emphasis upon diplomatic relations, in which he received splendid training at Harvard University from William F. Langer. After his return from his first Russian field trip, in which he lived among Russians in Moscow and studied documents in libraries, he supported himself as a research assistant and giving lectures and a few public talks. After he found a position at Union College, and it was after Union College that he went to Cornell and then ultimately Columbia, he applied for a Social Science Research Council fellowship to continue his study of international relations. His project was fascinating and important, and one for which he was uniquely qualified: a comprehensive treatment of Soviet-American relations between 1917 and 1921, the time of Dr. Zhivago, as I'm sure we all remember. However, the SSRC, Social Science Research Council Committee, in an action almost without precedent, gave him a fellowship, but urged that he change his field of interest and study living among peasant people in Southeast Europe. Perhaps because Mosley already appreciated his remarkable ability to master languages, to acquire the techniques and the insights of other disciplines than history, and to understand the cultures of the Balkan peoples, or perhaps because of the pressures of the Depression years, he accepted his extraordinary opportunity. Whatever his motivations, instead of working with more documents, he went to the London School of Economics, and most anthropologists who look over the history of the discipline in that period are well aware of the works of Malinowski, who at that time was a professor at the London School of Economics. Whatever his motivations, he went there and studied population problems under Carl Saunders and anthropology under Bronislaw Malinowski. He then followed the SSRC instructions and proceeded to Romania to work with the team which the extraordinarily innovative Professor Gusti had set up in Romanian villages. And of course, Mosley during that time went on to work in Yugoslavia and in Romania. Mm-hmm. And that's where I sort of come into the picture, because while in Yugoslavia in the 1930s, he met Professor Milenko Filipovic, who had applied for a Rockefeller Foundation fellowship. But this was the mid-30s, and before Filipovich had a chance to apply for the fellowship, 1939 was already there. And we all know that the war began in the summer of 1939 with Hitler's invasion of Poland.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a student in the 1950s, but in 1952 to be exact, Moseley revived Filipovich's application, and Filipovich came to spend a year in the United States in 1951-52.
Mm.
And I met Filipovich in Moseley's office at Columbia, and that was my entry into the world of the Balkans. But what I want to stress here is that these two people, Margaret Mead and Philip Moseley, had whatever that very special personal connection was in the 20s and 1930s. And Moseley did work later with the Margaret Mead's most famous husband. I'll be able to fill in the name and something about him subsequently.
Okay. Yep.
But it's also tremendously significant at the end of his life, as he was dying of cancer. He presided over Margaret Mead's Institute for Cultural Affairs. Again, we'll have to check the specific citation. So that the bonds between them, and also Margaret Mead's invitation for him to stay at her home when visiting New York, etc., indicates it was a personally very close one. But from our point of view here, what happened between the two of them is perhaps unknown or maybe unknowable, but it's really, whatever it was a very deep personal relationship. And but it was also had great intellectual significance, because in planning the research on Eastern Europe that Mead was involved with in the Second World War, because of her role in the Office of War Information, she brought in Mead and her then husband to consult about, Mead brought in Moseley to consult about his work in Romania, to lead to an understanding of what was actually the facts on the ground. And another very famous anthropologist, the one who wrote Chrysanthemum and the Sword, namely Mead's close personal friend Ruth Benedict, also wrote a kind of cultural reconstruction about Romanian culture, which was regarded as a key kind of understanding that was needed for American policy in World War II and its immediate aftermath. We can stop here for a moment.
Okay.